We are super excited to bring you this bonus episode showcasing 7 speakers in 7 days.
This episode is a partnership between the Data in Education and Building a Culture of Collaboration podcasts, with episodes being released through each podcast.
The bonus series showcases speakers who will be presenting at the June 2025 Data and Education Virtual Summit happening June 10th and 11th. We encourage you to search Data and Education Summit June 2025 to learn more and register. You can also check out the show notes for additional links.
So, Jess, we're excited to dive into this episode, so let's get started.
Welcome, educators. Whether you are a spreadsheet, dashboard, all things data fanatic like myself, or you break out into a cold sweat just hearing the words data meeting, it's okay. I've got you. My name is Jessica Lean, and I'm your host for this podcast, Data and Education. I'm also the founder of Data Informed Impact, where I work with schools and educators all over to get rid of some of that overwhelm and make things a little bit easier for them to make the best decisions for their students. We'll be talking about all things data culture, data literacy, and data visualization. Let's get started.
Welcome to everyone. I'm Curtis Houston and Lorna Houston, hosts of the Building a Culture of Collaboration podcast.
And I'm Jessica Lane, host of the Data and Education podcast. In today's bonus episode, we're chatting with Hope Mulholland, a technology integration specialist from Mansfield Public Schools with over 20 years in education. Hope is a driving force behind her district's data dashboard work, helping them move from struggling with scattered data to creating powerful, centralized visualizations. A Google certified trainer, she's passionate about using technology to make data accessible and actionable for everybody. So welcome, Hope. We're excited to have you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so the first thing, and it's a bit of a running joke on the series, is for some reason in our conversations, everyone has some kind of connection to Chicago, or they started off by teaching music. Do either of those fit for you?
Well, I have no experience with music, but my best friend is from Chicago. If that's like a loose connection,
Okay,
that works.
You'll keep the
There's
connection.
a connection.
Every time someone would say, and I started off by teaching music, and you'd see us on the screen going, or the Chicago thing would come up. We just thought it was Jessica just putting Chicago people into the conversation as much as possible. Okay, so if music isn't part of that background and the connection to Chicago is a friend, give us a little bit of your background. Hope, what has brought you to the place that you're today?
Yeah. So I have been a technology integration specialist for the past 5 years, but prior to that, I was a fifth grade teacher for many years, I think 11, and then I was a STEM teacher for a couple of years. So how I kind of got into technology integration was through my students, actually. I was teaching in Mansfield Public Schools, where I am now, and I was a fifth grade teacher, and I had this after school club, and the kids were really interested in learning how technology could be brought into the classroom. And we found Google Docs, which we weren't using at the time, and the kids just loved it. They loved the collaboration and being able to work with each other no matter where they were and at the same time, whether they were at home or at school. And so I really started helping my district roll it out into not just my classroom, but other classrooms. And then eventually we started to get Chromebooks for all the students. And I just ended up in this kind of dual role of being a fifth grade teacher, but also helping teachers with technology in the classroom. And it really all came from my students' excitement. And then I really felt that I was at that point in my career where I needed to try to focus on technology full time. And so I ended up leaving Mansfield for a few years. I became a STEM teacher, which was really a great experience because I got to work with kindergarten through fifth grade students and really see technology in a different way and get to experience a different position in schools. And then became a full-time technology integration specialist. And then later, I actually was able to come back to Mansfield because during the pandemic, they actually made a technology integration specialist position. And then after the pandemic was over, the teacher that was in that role left and they had an open position and I applied and got accepted. So kind of full circle, I got excited about technology in Mansfield and then ended up coming back. And now I work full time there as the technology integration specialist.
I always love the reminder of nothing starts out as complex as what you see at the moment. I love it started with us exploring some Google Docs with a bunch of kids. We had
Yeah.
on our podcast a few months ago a principal at a rural school here in Alberta where they've got hydroponic labs and barns with animals, and they basically have an
Yes.
in-school farm, and there's only like 80 kids in this entire
Wow.
school, but they have livestock that they're selling and training and whatnot. And then they've got an international program starting with these in the residences that they're building around the school. And you listen to it and go, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. How'd you start? And he goes, we started with a garden in the back of the school.
And an interest of the kids in the
The
community.
kid wanted to make a garden, so we made a garden.
Yeah.
I've tried
that's
starting a garden in the background of my yard, but it didn't go very far. Not that far.
Well, Hope, we realize that with all of your background in STEM and the tech piece and really exploring the Google platforms and that you obviously have an affinity to data. So we'd love to be able to have you talk a little bit about where you started to realize that value of data, and was it always a part of who you are as an educator?
Yeah, I think it started pretty early in my teaching career because my very first full-time teaching position, I was on the district data team. And so we we did a lot of professional learning about it and how to look at data and really see how that can improve student learning. And it was very a positive experience for me, which I feel like data isn't always for teachers. It was really positive because it was collaborative and we were really learning as we were looking at it. And so I think from very early in my career, I saw how it could be a powerful, positive experience for teachers.
Mm.
And so now being able to be in my role, that's the kind of thing that I want to share with my teachers that I work with, that it can be really positive and we can really impact students' growth.
Mm-hmm.
I love that focus on it's not data for data's sake, but the most important question is, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah. So then if we take that a step further, how has your time using that data in the classroom um back when you were a teacher, how does that then inform how you work with teachers now in implementing technology and using data in their own classrooms?
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky that I was a classroom teacher for so many years because it's really helped me in all aspects of becoming a technology integration specialist. I think I can see how excited and engaged students can be with technology, and I want to always support teachers. Like that's I since I started when I started in this role, I was a teacher and I was helping other teachers, so I always come from the place of I want to help teachers. And I think this role of technology integration specialist, not every district has them. And I think they've become a little bit more popular in recent years, but I think it's a really important role because technology is shifting so quickly.
Yeah.
It's changing every day. And if you don't have someone dedicated in the position who's really keeping an eye on how it's changing, and being able to support teachers through those changes and seeing how could be best used in the classroom to support students, then it's very hard to keep up with all of it.
Mm.
And unless you have a teacher, and there are certainly teachers in my district too who are really passionate and enjoy using technology and finding new ways, but it can be hard. Not everybody has that same passion for it, enthusiasm. So I think that is really important. And I think the other way that it's really helped me is that I can really see the connection to curriculum. So, like, really great technology integration is rooted in curriculum, like
Right.
what how are we going to use technology to find new ways for students to either learn the content or share how they learned. And it's not just, kind of like we were talking about data for data's sake. It's not technology just for technology's sake, right? Like we're
Yeah.
really going to be using it to help students learn. Um, and we have just an amazing staff at Mansfield Public Schools and amazing students, and they're always willing to try like new and innovative things. So I get to really work with teachers all the time on projects that they want to explore.
Mhm. So
Yeah, that's neat.
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
I'm interested, Hope. Before this recording happened, Jessica was raving about you, and yeah, you're gonna really enjoy having a chance to meet Hope. I would love to know what's the connection for you and Jessica. How did you come to know one another? And assume that there's a data connection here in the conversation, but would love to know that.
Yeah. So when I first returned to Mansfield Public Schools, they had started work on a data dashboard using Looker Studio. At the time was Google's
Ah,
data studio. And
yeah.
that's kind of Jessica's and I's connection because it was started by the person who was in the role before me, Louis Gaffinet, who's just an amazing teacher, and he was the technology integration specialist, and Jamie Russell, who was our IT director. And they had created, this model of what they wanted this data dashboard to look like. And then when I joined the team, we were kind of starting to get feedback from teachers and staff, and really kind of to see like, oh, how is this useful? What are you doing with it? And we got a lot of requests for charts that I couldn't figure out how to make in Looker Studio. And I was like, I've got to go to PD. I've got to learn. I've got to do some professional learning about this. So as a team, we did a lot of professional learning, but then my school sent me to FETC, which is a educational technology conference. And Jessica was there doing an amazing session on Data Studio. And so I went, and like the first thing, like as soon as she started talking, I was like, uh-oh, our whole how we are even like showing our data on the back end is not right. So we have to like redo this. And, I gained just so much from the session. And then hearing that Jessica was open to consulting, we brought her in to kind of help us build our version 2 of the dashboard, which really just helped us rethink how we wanted to share that data.
That is so
Yes.
interesting because I think, and I know, Jess, you're going to be able to fill in the blanks here for us. From a student, aren't you presenting on how to utilize Looker Studio
So
at
I
the
have to
data summit?
say, I have to say that she's talking about what happened 2 years ago, right? It's been
Yes, 2 years
two
ago.
years now that we've been working together. So and as much teaching as I did, I did as much learning as well through working with Hope and Jamie. That even sorry from the beginning, we ran into some things that I had never run into when we were dealing with a large set of data. And so it was really, really fun to be able to learn together and work together and bring my expertise that I had already and continue to grow from that while also working with their team. So it was such a good time. But yeah, that was 2 years ago. So I mean, and Hope started off already knowing a good deal about Looker Studio, back then Data Studio. So yeah, once it was time for this summit, I was like, you had to come present. Like you guys, especially since they had started presenting on their dashboard already, and they have a sample dashboard. I felt like it was a necessity. And I do want to give you, Hope, the chance to kind of just give an overall idea of what all you have on that dashboard.
And just before we go there, when is that? When is Hope's
Oh yeah,
session?
let me tell you. So that is on June 10th. So that's the first day. It is the Getting Started with Looker Studios and title, and it's at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Excellent.
And sorry, since I interrupted, you might have to repeat the question. My bad.
Yeah. So I was just asking, what all do you have on that dashboard? Because every time I come into it, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's even more added, and it's such a good example of keeping everything in one spot.
Yeah, so we have grown it so much from from when we started with Jessica. But I think you know when we started, we had kind of these four main things we wanted. So we wanted it to be one place where there could be timely data for teachers. Like we really wanted it to be a place that teachers could access constantly to see how things were changing for their students. And we wanted it to be really like intuitive and flexible to meet the needs of all of our staff. And third, we wanted to be able to look at like district level data, like our district assessments, but we also wanted teachers to be able to also include like their assessments, like their everyday assessments. And we wanted to be able to look at a picture of an individual student. And then finally, we wanted just not only academic data, but also like behavioral, positive behavior data, some attendance data. We wanted to be able to have both quantitative and qualitative data. So we
Mm.
also included our link to our students' portfolios in there. So the way it's kind of structured is we have like an overview page where you can see all of the assessments in one space. So you can really kind of see by a grade level how a particular grade is doing across different assessments. But then we break it down and we have pages for each specific assessment. You could dig a little deeper and see student growth, either as a cohort or as a small group of students. And then we have these individual student pages, which really show all of the students' assessments and then have links to certificates they have earned for positive behavior. And then also, the students have these folders that have all of their portfolios. So they have all of their work in one place, artifacts that they've selected and chosen as a sample of their work. And we put the link to that folder in there as well. So a teacher can really go there, look up an individual student, and get a lot of information at a glance.
Oh, that is
Yeah, I think
incredible.
that's just so neat. The concept of taking it from, that higher level of showing the overall assessment data and then just breaking it down piece by piece until you get to that individual student. And it's hard sometimes to think about how do we merge the context or like the projects or the work that happens in the classroom with the data that we have on the dashboard. And I think it's so fascinating how you guys have taken those student portfolios and brought them in and linked them through the dashboard. And so I love that idea. And every time I get on there, I'm like, oh, this is neat. I don't think I probably don't have access, but I'd love to see like a sample of those student portfolios at some point because I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, so for my session, I actually had reached out to some students and their families just to make sure it would be okay. And I have some examples that I can share because I think it's really powerful work to see what the students have chosen to include in their portfolios as their work samples. And it doesn't have to be, a finished piece or even the most polished thing, but just something that they felt was either challenging to them or something that really helped them grow as a learner. So I'm excited to share some of those examples as well and see how that really comes together on our dashboard.
So Hope,
Yeah,
I'm
exciting.
really interested too. I mean, obviously we focus on our podcast about building this culture of collaboration, and I can't imagine building out an extensive data dashboard for an entire district without learning some things about effective collaboration as you work through. What have been some things that you've learned about collaboration and how you go about leading some of that collaborative work in designing the dashboard, and I assume having it continue to evolve and change?
Yeah, I think it really is strong collaborative work. So we have our IT team, which I'm a part of, and they helped a lot with thinking about how to especially build all these spreadsheets and these scripts to kind of automate things because
Mm.
collecting all of this data can just be so time consuming. And so it really worked really well. And then, Jamie and I got to meet with Jessica a lot and really think about redesigning and how to make it most effective. So that was also a really important collaboration. And Jessica's knowledge about Looker Studio was just so helpful for us. And then it was, my role, I work with both the IT team and the curriculum team. So that was also really important because I worked with the director of teaching and learning, Candace Morrell, and our other specialists, our math and ELA specialists, and really worked with them to see what they wanted to see on the dashboard, which I think was so important because if it's not useful for them, they're the ones that are really looking at the data, then we're not going the right direction. And finally, really getting when we launched it to teachers, we rolled it out, as an initiative. So we did some professional learning about it. We asked the teachers what kind of things they would want to see. And we're still in the middle of that collaboration because there were a lot of things on the wish list. And we're in year 3 now. And there are some things we haven't gotten to yet. When you're dealing with these large amounts of data, you have to think about how do we get everything we want, but still have it be really efficient.
Yeah.
So right now we're actually gonna be working on how we can move maybe to even BigQuery or some other things to kind of increase the speed of our dashboard. And that's going to be a collaboration. I mean, we're hoping we'll bring Jessica in again. And we reached out to Google actually itself to see if we could make some connections with Google to see if we can help see how we want to move forward with that because it's a Google Cloud service. So, and we're really using it for education to kind of see how we can um, just bring it to that next level because we want it to be useful for teachers. So we've had on the dashboard itself, teachers can give feedback. So they can go there and there's a Google form. If there's something that they want to see, they can give real-time feedback like, oh, I see, I want this. But then I also meet with teachers all the time and we look at the dashboard. And then I think the administration team has been really helpful too, because as they go to meetings, they bring up the dashboard and they do such a nice job of sharing data and talking about data with the staff. And then they'll give me and Jamie and Candace feedback about what else they might want to see on there. And from that, we've actually had a few, I don't know what to call them, but break off dashboards. So we had we ended up, even though our portfolios for our students are on the main dashboard, we also have a whole portfolio dashboard that's separate so that teachers can more easily access everything. And then we have a dashboard that we're working on that's going to house all the curriculum. So I've been working with a director of teaching and learning where we're going to put all the curriculum in a dashboard so teachers can, and even families eventually can access the materials really much faster.
That's
Yeah, and to give Hope a ton of credit, I know that a lot of times when we start our meetings, it's the teachers think it would be valuable to see this, or it would be nice to be able to bring in this data. The teacher said that they would like to be able to compare it. So there's definitely a value in being in one of those positions that connects the technology world with the education world. And I've talked before about how those seem very disconnected in some school districts. And so then you have people, bringing in technology, but they don't know enough about what the teachers need and want. And so it becomes just another thing to throw into the bucket, which then adds to that decision fatigue and,
Yeah.
more of that overwhelm and chaos. So it's nice to be able to work on something that is going to be used and valued. It's really a cool experience.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about that, the connection between technology and data visualization, um, which of course empowers teachers. Because Hope, you've already talked a little bit about that too. But how do you help teachers to become more data literate and confident in using their data?
Yeah, great question. I think we talked a little bit about this, but data can be really intimidating. And I think, especially when you're only looking at high stakes assessments once a year, we
Yeah.
take these state assessments and then, you know, we're looking at the results maybe even in the fall, kicking off the year. And it can feel really intimidating because you want to do well for your students, right? And you want to see that growth and you feel like it reflects on you as a teacher. And so I think by providing access to data on a regular basis for teachers and students and administrators, we can kind of really start to work together to understand the value of data as a community. and then set goals based on that. And I think, I've always had the mindset that like it's not the data itself's not bad. It's just a starting point to see like where we
Yeah.
need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's just the starting point. And so data literacy, I think, really helps us like see the trends and patterns over time. So like, what are we looking for? What do we need to see? And visualizing it, especially in something like Looker Studio or any other tool, even if you're using Google Sheets, really visualizing it, you can see those trends really much more easily. And then it helps for faster decision making. Like
Yeah.
time is so precious in schools, right? Like you come together as a team and you have like 30 minutes, right? And you're sitting there and you want to be able to see it quickly. So I think, for our teams to be able to pull up a page and see everything in graph form really quickly has been very powerful.
Yeah.
Really making it more accessible. I feel like some schools, or sometimes in the past, it's been kind of like, there's been a little bit of gatekeeping, and our district isn't like that at all. We want teachers to have access to everything. Like we, we want them to be able to see all the data. And then, really, if there's any outliers, or anomalies, or something seems off, or I know sometimes even being able to identify bias in the data, like, is there anything that we're seeing this, and what is it because of something that we're unconsciously recording that we don't mean to be?
Yeah.
And then finally, like really improving communication. So I think it gives us a starting point to have those conversations, whether they're tough conversations or not.
Mhm.
And there's the data is that shows that it's really there, like whatever the issue is or whatever the trend we're seeing, good or bad, it's there. Um, so I think that's empowering for teachers because you're coming from a place where you have support for whatever your next steps are or whatever your goal is that you're setting for yourself and your students. I think also kind of additionally by looking at, the variety of data sources, we for so long, I feel like our only data point that we would look at as teachers was often like our classroom assessments, certainly, but then our big assessments were like our state assessments. And what we really tried to do in Mansfield with our dashboard is have a variety of assessments. So we have
Yeah.
like iReady and SBAC, and then our like bridges, classroom assessments. And so we can really start to triangulate data and really see a more complete picture of a student. Because when you only have one data point, we don't know what was going on with that student that day, right? Like anything could happen. So by seeing different data points where we can really kind of get a sense of what that student might need for next steps. And it's really important.
I do find it super interesting too that we talk about the idea of data literacy, and then we wonder why, our profession, our teachers, our schools struggle with the use of data when it is a once or maybe twice a year
Yeah.
activity or event that happens in our school. It'd be like saying in our school, we do a reading boot camp twice a year to try and help kids learn to read. Like that, it's ludicrous. You
Right.
think of it that way. To be able to get really confident and understanding of the data, we have to be engaging in it in a regular basis. And I know some people listening or viewing this might get overwhelmed with, well, our dashboard has this, 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 this. But again, it's that idea of go back to the community garden. It probably didn't start with all of those points. It
Mhm.
probably didn't start with teachers feeling really comfortable getting in and getting mucky. Like,
Takes time.
yeah, take a small piece and then just over time continue to build and build and build.
Yeah, thinking back, I think we started maybe with just diagnostic and state assessments. Then we started slowly out in the classroom assessments. And all of it too, like we talked about at the request of teachers. So it's a huge benefit to be able to add in those layers, but definitely not starting with all of that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, I
love
think.
that.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love the idea of really facing on, like, right from the start, those things that are getting in the way of teachers looking at data. And I know, Jess, you talk a lot about that, about, taking the time to say what's not here that we need to talk about now before we step into the examination of data.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about data visualization, which is always a fun topic for us, I know. And we talked about data literacy. So let's talk a little bit more about data culture and how the dashboard and your help with tech integration has led to a more positive data culture in your guys' district that ultimately, as we can see, is impacting student learning.
Yeah, so like I've spoken about, I think it's really been a collaboration of all our members of our district leadership team, from our superintendent to our school administrators, IT team, curriculum team, and now our teachers. And I think, like I said earlier, our teachers in Mansfield are incredible, and they have really high expectations for students. And so, creating a positive data culture just gives us another tool to use to support student growth. I think our next step, like what we've really been focusing on next, is to work on data literacy with students.
Mhm.
So we're now starting to have students look at their data and start to set goals, specifically around iReady, because that's kind of our diagnostic throughout the year. But I think we're seeing it in other areas as well. And I think it's important because we want students to be setting goals for their learning, but I think data literacy in general is really important for students because so much of the world that our students are entering in beyond the classroom is going to be driven by data.
Yeah.
And so it's really important for them to be literate about it too. And so having this whole culture where from everyone, from teachers, students, administration, being really knowledgeable about data, I think is really going to help our students grow and um, really give them kind of, I don't know, this extra tool in their toolbox when they graduate as well. I also think that having them see this connection between data literacy and having them make decisions about their goals and their artifacts of learning that they put in their portfolios gives them a lot of ownership of their learning
Mhm.
as well. So
Yeah.
I think the combination is really powerful for our students. So I'm excited about the work that we're doing. I know there's so much more that we want to do with the dashboard. We want to be able to start looking at our data from all the way down to the standards, like how students are doing on each particular like domain or standard. So like that's kind of our next step of things that we want to try to incorporate, so that teachers can see um, on all different assessments how students are doing down to that really granular level. And then even students can hopefully see that in the future. And I think we want to bring students and families into the conversation more as well. So we have a lot of work that we want to continue to do as a district. And I have to say, it's so exciting from when, Louis, who had this initial idea and did like some graphing around state assessments and was really excited about it, to just see how much it's grown in our district and now is becoming a powerful tool for teachers and students and administrators is just really exciting.
The interesting thing about that, and we see it all the time in our work too, is when you start establishing those robust cultures, and in this case, a robust data culture, there's just a cascading effect of
Oh,
there's always a next step, there's always a next evolution or iteration. You're never done, but the work is just continuing to get deeper and deeper.
mm,
And I'm even thinking, wow, if I could have teachers starting to help students to create goals, then they're going to see even more relevance in the data, which is then going to create
Hmm.
greater school and team-based goals. Like it's just going to impact at every level.
Yeah, and it gives you that basis for the growth, which then leads to the celebration, and that
yeah.
becomes a motivation to keep going. So it's just like it's a very positive cycle once you get into it, and and once you start feeling all of the the celebrations and being able to see that growth is just amazing.
Mhm.
Um, I have been trying to listen, but I keep, of course, getting distracted by the fact that you're answering our questions, which is the main point of all of that. I've been trying to listen to hear whether or not you say data or data, because we have this ongoing thing throughout this series. And I think I've heard you say both, actually.
Yeah, I actually moved between both. So I think I can screw it as both. So I do it unconsciously.
Yeah,
And
we
We're-
do too.
We're kind of feeling a little bit relieved because we were wondering if this was a Canadian American data, whatnot, but it seems interchangeably universally. So that helps.
Yeah.
I think whatever comes out at the time, that's how you say it.
That's what to go with.
Okay, Jeff. I think at the data summit, there needs to be some kind of contest that people can do to see if we can come up with a eventual
Yes, that's what we need.
participants.
We have
Just
to
how
think
many
through-
times do you hear both?
The trouble with that is that they'll only listen for that
Yeah,
and
that's
won't
right.
yes the important messages. But
Yeah, I know she was
See,
talking. I know she was talking something about Looker Studio, but I heard her say data 12 times and data 16.
You have to say, I was trying really hard and I got distracted by the actual answer. So maybe it'll work for them too. They'll be like, data, oh, student portfolios. All right. So as we start wrapping up, I'd love to hear how anybody might be able to get in touch with you if they have more questions about what you're doing. I know you'll be presenting at the summit, of course. So people, please come watch her session, because there's so much cool stuff going on there. But beyond that, how could our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm not on a lot of social media. Part of that might be the side effect of being a technology integration specialist and taking data privacy really seriously. But I am on LinkedIn, so anyone can reach me on LinkedIn, and my profile is on there, so you can connect with me through that. I'm on email. I don't know if you can put my email on there, Jess, but you certainly can. People can reach me by email. That would be great. And then, yeah, I'm really excited to be presenting at the Data in Education Virtual Summit. So if you want to see more, especially about how we've built and structured our dashboard, I'm going to show you some examples of what our dashboard looks like, and also have made some just fun examples that people can try and test while we're doing the session.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
Well, thank you so much, Hope, for joining us. And we really look forward to learning more from you in June. Wishing you all the best.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
thanks so
Thanks
much
for
Hope.
having me.
All right, Jess, you had been raving about Hope before and the work that she's doing. And it was interesting how it started with this one focus and is built to what she's talked about here now. But I love that idea and that reminder of data is your starting point.
Yeah.
It's the starting point for the ongoing conversation. And I think, again, that's a great reminder that when people are building dashboards and thinking about visualization, and just remembering at the end of the day, you create all of it. If you haven't created space for the conversation, you're probably not making the best use of your efforts.
Well,
Yep,
and
absolutely.
the other part of that too is that it's a starting point, but over time, you want it to be embedded in everything that you do, and it just becomes a part of the way that we do business in our school. That examination is consistently there, that it's not just once or twice a year,
Well,
but that we're accessing that data over and over again to be able to see the growth and improvement that's
so the
happening.
thing I can envision in that is, when we have that strong data culture where we
Yeah.
can be in a staff meeting talking about this and somebody can pull up, well, we're
Yeah,
talking about
let's look
issues
at
that
our
are happening at the recess. Okay, well, based on some of our recess data, here's what we're seeing, like that people are bringing it into every conversation of, okay, well, this is what our data is saying. So what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. It's been so much fun to watch the transformation of their district through the lens of Hope and Jamie, and being able to just like get excited with them about all of the ways that they can make their teachers' lives easier, and make sure that they're all kind of aiming for that student success that they want. And it just every time I bring up that dashboard, I mean, I said before, I'm just blown away by what they've added. And it's not so much that they're adding a whole bunch of chaos, it's all stuff that people are asking for. And it's laid out in a way that it doesn't feel overwhelming. There aren't extra crazy visualizations on there. They stick to the basic kind of visualizations. Everything's super clear, easy to read. And it's just a perfect example of how to take something like Looker Studio, which is a free tool, by the way. We didn't mention that in the session, but 100% free. It works within the Google Workspace, connects to Google Drive. So it's such a perfect example of how to take that free tool and really get the most out of it. And it's just so fun having Hope on here, knowing that, I've been able to see her grow and learn so much in this realm. So
So
And
it's
really
pleasure.
with that focus on meaningful data too,
Yeah.
that they're
yes.
they're pulling in data, but not just everything, like you said, Jess, not everything that they can find, but things that are actually going to have impact for their students.
see, and I imagine somewhere there's a teacher listening or watching this going, oh, if they added that I had to go and look at a data dashboard on a regular basis. That's just one more thing in my job. But I think the understanding is anyone who's gone and engaged in that work starts to understand that actually this makes the work more efficient when I can come in and see, oh, here's an area to target. Okay, I can focus in on that next day. I had heard a system leader one time that said, if we aren't utilizing data, we're probably spending a lot of time trying to address what we think
Yeah.
might be gaps or concerns that may not be. He equated it to like throwing dartboards while blindfolded. You might hit the target, but think of how many darts you're going to waste to try and get there. Where if we can get it crystal clear on this is where we could go and what we could do, that efficiency is huge
Yes.
favors.
Yes. I love that analogy to throwing the darts. I think it makes so much sense. And I just always go back to that story that I have where, we brought the data into North College Hill Elementary and we had it influencing so much of our academic process and then expanding to attendance and behavior and social emotional. And yet that school had the least amount of turnover. So clearly it was not adding one more thing to their plates,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
can tell you they had a lot on their plates and they were still
course.
sticking around. So it had to have made it easier. Otherwise, we would have lost several along the way, and we did not.
I love to their next steps in really thinking about it in terms of a community and that how do we, obviously we're setting it up so our teachers can use it and the leaders can use it,
Yeah.
but how do we help our students to use it and our parents
And our
as well?
families.
And that just becomes a whole community effort in really making it clear and accessible the information that we have about student learning.
Well, and she's right. Getting kids future ready, there's not much out there that you engage in your adult life that doesn't have a data
Oh,
element
for sure.
as well.
Yep, exactly. And the data science world is growing rapidly, so lots of jobs there.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
right.
All right. Well, as always, it's been great to connect once again, Jess, as part of this bonus series in anticipation for the Data Summit. So we'll encourage everyone listening, check out that Data Summit. Not only is Hope sharing the how their district is utilizing Looker Studio, but there's a number of speakers. How many speakers is it altogether, Jess, that you have?
I think we have 26.
26.
That's
Only
my
been 2 days.
approximation, but I'm pretty sure it's around like mid-20s.
Awesome.
Lots of learning.
Lots of learning, and every single time we have people walking away saying, "Oh my goodness, I wish I would have known about this sooner," because whether it's data literacy, data culture, data visualization, you're going to walk away with a lot of tangible, practical learning. So it's always a good time.
So last piece then, before we end off this, what if someone's listening to this episode and go, I missed the June 10th and 11th, 2025 summit. Is this something that you look at doing on a regular basis?
Yes, definitely at least once a year during the summer. And then we usually have some kind of breakoff session sometime during the fall, winter. We're trying different times. So always keep an eye out. Just continue to Google data and education. You can always get on my email list. You have all the information in the show notes. And I'll keep you up to date as well.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, we wish everyone the best and hope to see you at the June 2025 Data Summit. Take care, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye. Well, my friend, did you enjoy it? I'm really hoping the answer is yes. And like every other podcast out there, I'm going to ask you for some big favors. Can you please make sure that you're subscribed? You don't want to miss the next episode, I promise. And then if you could leave a review, that'd be awesome too. If you're on YouTube, by the way, there's this great thing that you can do where you just like go to the box underneath the video and type in your thoughts, ideas, wishes, hopes, dreams, and hit comment. And it shows up under the video. It is public, just a warning. But I'd really love for you to do that. Share with me. What did you think about the episode? Or what are your dreams in life? It's okay. You can really leave any kind of comment. And I'll do my best to respond. Above all else, I appreciate you listening, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.